Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Hellblade, Susuna's Sacrifice. No, Suna's Sacrifice. I'm gonna mispronounce it a lot. I really taught myself that it was Susuna before the game came out, and only to realize I had misread it. There's an interesting thing here in that I have two monitors, and in my second monitor I'm looking at the Steam banner, which is the exact same image as what we're seeing on the main menu here, and yet either because it's two different TV models with two different capabilities of color spectrum, the banner looks much more natural and pale, whereas the game itself looks much more bright and kind of cartoony. Um, it may very well be that they touched up the banner art to make it a little bit darker um, for the Steam banner, so maybe it's not really the same pictures. The game crashed at the end of the last recording, so what I'm gonna do here is turn VSync on. That way we might be able to limit the number of frames and stop a crash again. I think we can also just turn combat difficulty to easy, because I don't think there's really any benefit whatsoever from it being in any difficult or more difficult. This is going to be a short experience anyways. There's no like frame rate thing here though, so I did verify the game files through Steam just to make sure we had a good install, and we should be able to just jump back into the game. And let me just move the mouse out of the way. There definitely was some wonkiness that we had seen before, so this is where it crashed before. Interesting that kind of checkpoints and saves just with that. There's some wonkiness between loading out of a cutscene and into the actual game. There's weirdness too, because we came, I guess maybe from this point. So, yeah, did we come through here? I think we did. So, I probably just need to trigger that next cutscene again. I don't know if that means I maybe died. Alright, so I was supposed to focus on this. So, what I'm gonna do is run and run through here.
Hell will not give you the answers you want, but you mustn't look away from the horrors it does offer, because you cannot overcome suffering if you refuse to look at it.
I don't know if this means that this guy, it maybe is going to be a father figure or an actual father in this story, or if he is just a crazy person.
Where's it gone? The fire's disappeared. It was everywhere. Maybe it was a trick. Cert is through there. He's waiting for her. You can't get through. How will she get through?
I think at this point, what we're supposed to do is just walk to the doors.
There's always another way. There's always a way. Find your own way. You just have to find it. Is waiting for you. It was
Hmm. So I may have taken a death, and it may have saved me on that death. Which this game feels like it's almost short enough that it would be somewhat excusable that you might lose your progress and have to start all over again and play the game from the beginning a second time. But I don't see how you really get to that when you have such a story-based experience.
The Northmen say that the defender of Muspel is called Surt, the foremost of the fire giants. His name means the Black One, because he is like something burnt. The Northmen believe that he sits at the border of Muspel with his flaming sword, and at the end of the world he will leave his post. He will travel to Asgard and Midgard, waging
Feels like
war
we're
against
seeing a
all
lot
the
of
gods.
visual
He will
pop
be
in.
victorious.
If anything, it feels like the graphics after that crash changed way more than just me turning on vertical sync.
Another gate. Another gate. She needs to
Now,
find it.
I
Another fire.
believe this game came out slightly before the latest God of War game, which, in comparison, I think the God of War game probably has a longer, better story
To Surt.
than this could possibly offer, and way more gameplay mechanics. So, in a funny way, I kind of feel like the God of War, interesting how walking under that pole seemed to drastically change the vision. Like, just that little bit of darkness. Nope, that was a scripted event
It's too
to change
far.
their vision.
She'll never find it. She'll never make her way back.
She needs to remember the way back.
What happens when she finds it?
Everything will burn.
Concentrate. Concentrate on where you're going. She needs to remember the path.
Everything will burn, then how will she find the way back?
She won't. She won't be able to tell.
Okay. So it seems to me like the game is even just directly telling you that you're going to have to memorize the path. It does seem like when you get in the shadow of something, your vision seems to really focus on that as being the only way,
The
as
Northmen
something different.
believe that the world will be destroyed someday. They call it Ragnarok, the destiny of the gods. Asgard will be attacked by Surt and the fire giants. A monstrous wolf will swallow the sun, and the gods will fight in vain against their enemies. There is nothing they can do to prevent it, but Odin ever seeks knowledge and magic, hoping to find a way to postpone that dark day.
So I'm wondering if all these cindering coals indicate a place where you won't be able to walk because there's fire, or if there's kind of nothing about that matters, because it seems like you're seeing cindering coals kind of everywhere.
The Northmen made fire sacrifices, burning slaves like me to reveal the path to Surt. I searched for meaning in their suffering, in their eyes, but they just screamed like helpless pigs.
Yeah. Clearly the Northmen are Vikings. Although we very possibly have an unreliable narrator here that is depicting the actions of the Vikings differently than the way they really would have been, although I think it's probably very accurate to assume that there could have been slaves burnt to search, and for religious reasons. Okay, so what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to jump down this way after we summon the fire. I get it though, like it is really a question about how would you affect someone's perception of reality, or what part, or how do you make a game about someone's perception of reality changing and people hallucinating both auditorial and visually. We're just trying to run.
Do your gods answer your prayers, Senua? I asked the gods for mercy, all of them, even theirs. None answered. In the end, I set myself free. Defy the gods, Senua! Find your own path, like I find mine!
My gods abandoned me. I am alone.
And Senua is just not talking. And we probably want to keep an eye out to make sure that the head and the mirror are always on her belt, and that they're not just like despawning when we're not looking, particularly in the sword play section. I wonder if it's a fair comparison to make, but I'll say it anyways. In a funny way, this is almost like the old 90s full motion video games. And there is the occasional full motion video game these days that still come out, but not to any major accord. Because a lot of this is definitely
Fire, Senua, to follow the path to Surt.
like, we know Senua is animated, although animated very nicely, but the male protagonist or companion character, we kind of know his cutscenes seem to be basically live action footage. If that is animated, it's so close. That's kind of hard to tell.
The Northmen of Hell worship the Devourers, insatiable gods of darkness. I come from Erin, Senua, where I once followed my own gods, the Tuatha De Danann.
Why did you abandon your gods?
Senua, I was a man of knowledge, not a warrior. To survive, I did things. Bad things. Like you, Senua. The man I once was has died. And when that happens, even gods you worship can die with you.
We definitely don't feel like we're just in a generic Helheim area anymore. It seems like the world itself is shifting itself to be something more. Which one would assume that is the experience. Well, and they've got this set in such a way that it doesn't seem like you can easily match that. Seems like you'd have to match this some other way. Hmm. Well, I sure hope it's not a mistake to jump down here. Hmm. This could certainly take a lot more time than it probably is intended to take. R. You see an R here, but I wonder if this is a case where you can't get the R done until later. Interesting how it's just pointing upward.
The Northmen say that at Ragnarok, the sons of Muspel will travel to battle in the ship called Naglfar, the corpse ship. And when the sons of Muspel leave the ship and ride to battle, it will be as though the sky had split open, and Surt will lead them. Wherever he goes, flame will erupt before him, and fires will burn behind him.
Hmm. Let's see if the M is kind of over here. I'd almost assume that it would be some small area. Okay, we do have a cross we're looking for. It's gotta be that. It's gotta be that. Surrounded by that. Got it. So we'll run back over here and try the R symbol. Yeah, there definitely were some live action Sega CD style games that barely had any gameplay around them because all the space of the CD itself was being taken up by the video, the live action video content. Is there possibly an angle here? Like, is it a tree? We kind of know it is here. And I think almost certainly it's supposed to be something you see from up here. Otherwise, there would be a percentage of players that would just not actually walk this direction, or they would just walk on the ground. But it needs to have kind of a zigzag pattern like that. Oh, it's flame. I was totally looking in the wrong place. Interesting. I probably would have never found that if I hadn't just gotten lucky. Like, that does teach us that we now have to look in that direction now. We have to look on the ground in the embers because solutions are going to come from that direction. There was a game that came out a long time ago called Dante's Inferno, based on the first book of the Divine Comedy, Dante's Inferno. And it was very edgy and had a lot of violence. Most notably, I think it is notorious for motion capturing a baby to turn it into a demonic aborted fetus baby in hell. They motion captured the crawling motion of a baby to do that. I suppose it really isn't going to stop me much to just run through this fire this time, because the path's not going to get, I think, super blocked, although we probably are going to run through the house. It's kind of funny because the game is basically telling you to run with the voices. And the corpses are kind of pointing you in the right direction. It's no surprise that they wouldn't want to have more of an action sequence. You can't run while walking across the boards. This really is just one of those games where you're going to have like psychic damage attacking you. Let's see. On easy, it does seem like on easy you can. Let's get away from. I'm getting knocked around. See, now I'm on easy, and that seems bad in a couple ways, because it feels like that was too difficult, and it was hard to see, to say the least. Yeah, I don't know if I really have anything else to say about Dante's Inferno. This game feels very similar in theme, except for it's not going through a Christian hell. I think part of the problem with any of the games that have tried to set around the Christian hell is that there is really not any great agreement as to what that should look like, and it doesn't particularly, I think, work as well as people think it would. Doing Dante's Inferno in general is a problem because you're just never going to actually make like Paradise Lost or no, that's not the second game story in Dante the Divine Trilogy. It's like Purgatorio. Dante's Purgatorio is next, and then I think the third one is Dante's Paradiso, or Paradise. Like, you don't seem like you can block a couple shots. So it seems like you have to kind of back off these guys and see if you can slice them one at a time. And now we're getting back to running. And that just feels like that was unnecessary to make us fight through that sequence. That's action sequence on top of action sequence.
And have the courage to shed your tears. Raise your world to the cry.
My world is dead.
Only then, as with a newborn, will you
So, yeah, that just it felt unnecessary to have a fight then. Feels like it would have made a little bit more sense to have a fight after that point. And it seems like we're just going to end up potentially having maybe a boss fight if there are any other kinds of characters we even end up fighting. Wonder if you can scan that from this direction. I guess you can.
Tell me truth. How did you escape your darkness?
Senua, once I found my purpose, I was no longer enslaved to the suffering I had to endure to reach it. Unclouded by fear, I could see it clearly in others. Even my captors feared the fire of Cert. And so, during one raid, I took my chance and ran, knowing that they would not follow. A fool ran into the fire. They left me for dead. Maybe they were right to. But here I am. Free.
I'm glad I found you in the wilds. I wouldn't have made it without you.
See, the symbol seems to be backwards here, though. So it seems like I have to get on the other side of that wall. Let's speed up a little bit. This should be the last one.
That what we see as a rainbow is the bridge that goes from the world of men to the world of the gods. For now, they say the frost giants and the mountain giants cannot cross it. But they say that when Ragnarok comes, not a thing in this world will be safe. The rainbow bridge will break under the onslaught of the fire giants riding on flaming steeds. Senua, I have seen the fire of Cert spread far and wide, and to our lands. Ragnarok is coming.
So if any of this sounds familiar because you've watched any Thor or read any Thor comics, that should be no surprise there that it is familiar. Rainbow Bridge, Ragnarok, things like that. I wonder if there's a specific time frame in which just all old, what once were religious beliefs taken very seriously, become so far from being relevant and no longer seriously worshipped by a significant amount of people that it does weave into the realm of fantasy, or if it is just fads, and fads are somewhat random and uncontrollable. Like, I'm not even sure what really got into the Vikings fad in general, if it was a Vikings TV show or something else. Okay, we're looking for a triangle with a line on one side. And again, we need to keep our eye somewhat on the ground, too. We are far from our final goal, but they're going to try and make the game feel like it's an open world place, and that you can always kind of see your final goal. There could be a render distance issue, certainly, where this game is trying to show us something far in the distance and we don't see it. It'd be really weird if it was just directly up in the sky. And this definitely is barricading you so as that you don't try to jump off the edge. I assume I once again have to open the gate to get to the fire, to get through the fire gate, which, yeah, that seems kind of repetitive. Where would a triangle be? I mean, I see lines. But triangles. There's a triangle there. If I could balance that out. I mean, we've got a flag here. Could we use this post to make a triangle? Yes, we can. It wants us to do that. Notice that when you get somewhat close, it just cheats for you and gets you to the final position, which has been scripted. I have to say that more recently, I've realized a lot of games that I decided I really wanted to play were made. That decision to want to play them was heavily influenced by a lot of mainstream video game media, journalism, advertisement, and such. And it does definitely feel like it's going to be very hard for this game to justify the amount of critical darling hype that it got, considering how short it seems like this game is going to be, considering how there really is only a few gameplay mechanics, a lot of butts. What's weird here is if we're seeing a lot of butts in these burned corpses, then it's pretty much, I guess, all male corpses throughout the game, which, yeah, that might be a problem, but probably isn't a problem. If anything, I think
Senua, if I can survive the fire of Cert and escape my darkness, then so can you.
yeah, it definitely feels like there's a real flag and there's something to that flag that matters, and it does kind of seem like it's just all male bodies. Yeah, I would say the problem with Dante's Inferno is that it tried to go very, very edgy, and it was just laughably edgy for too edgy for its own good, even for its time frame that it was released on. And I believe it was, if not an adults only rated game, it was very close to it, which would have, which that probably severely limited sales. So we're running through the fire, but it's all a hallucination, so whatever. Like, the only time it seems like Suna sees a female dead, she's seeing herself dying, which That seems to be just another indication of her
I'm sorry.
mental
I'm
state. Poor
so
state.
sorry. This darkness takes everything. Everyone.
Again, this feels more like a full motion video than it does animated. And it might as well have been.
Together, side by side. We always do.
This is my battle. I have to face it alone. Away from here.
Where will you go?
I don't know.
Her face isn't painted.
I don't know.
So we assume that this is Dylan.
You know that. Just promise me that you will come back to me. I want you to say it. I want you to say it.
I will come back to you. I promise.
You have kind of this like eyeball reflection also over the screen, which is a weird looking effect.
Spill the blood of Celtic, take his mark, and I will change you from the world and forever be in your debt.
See, and this feels like this would be the point where the game needs to really show that there is a more of a fighting mechanic. Am I supposed to be doing any kind of quick time events? Apparently not. Am I supposed to be tapping a button? Apparently. I am supposed to dodge and attack. Wait, so he has a wind up. Come on. So this guy seems like he has no dodgeable way. Seems like my mirror now has some system. Alright, it's saying focus. What does that mean? Like, am I supposed to be focusing in the middle of the fight? Like, the game has just totally not trained me for anything like that. So, that is building up a attack on the mirror, which glows on the outside. And it is a slow time down ability. Feels like I've potentially just gone to so the focus brings down the flames. It definitely feels like this is supposed to be the second boss, and I went to the second area when I should have gone to the first area first, and the game should have just forced me into that. it feels very weird that there's no explanation as far as like the mirror and focus ability anyways. That seems to indicate that we've defeated one.
A greater battle takes its place. And so it goes. Until we fall.
Hmm.
And in the end, we all fall. Even the gods have their time.
Just looking at darkness at
But we
this
still
point.
go on. Why?
I made a promise, and I will go to hell to keep
I
it.
die free, knowing you will carry my stories with you. I have fulfilled my quest.
Yes, you have.
So I guess he's not gonna follow us.
I vow to guide you in this life and the next to fulfill yours.
Then I will see you in hell.
Be ready
Hmm.
to face horror in the eye, as I have, to find your answers.
I wonder if
Your quest.
they had only made so many of those cutscenes, and those cutscenes would have played either way, regardless of which path you had taken. And so now when we go back to what is probably the first level, we are going to end up using that as a
Truth was a troubled man.
we're not going to hear any more lines of dialogue.
They tortured him. Took him with them on their raids. Drove him to madness. Spreading this new form of darkness to new worlds. To my world.
In the previous cutscene where we were looking through the eyes of Dylan, that implies that the character, the voice, the player character is Dylan's spirit controlling Suna. Which maybe that's supposed to be a big reveal, or maybe that's supposed to be fairly obvious. Her head turns automatically when there is a thing to focus
Senua
on.
saw a deep connection form between the Northmen and the darkness. If his tales of hell were true, then that was the source of it.
I
She
can't
felt everything
help
she could
but
remember
wonder if I've missed some
until she too
things I
see
could zoom on.
what he saw.
Okay. So I think we went down that way originally, and this was the path that was blocked. And so we had to take the long way, and it's not going to fast travel us back to a central area. We're just going to have to walk it ourselves. And there would be an opportunity, certainly, for either more encounters or for observations that would have been mostly hidden if you were walking the other direction. There could be a face, for instance, anywhere in the mountainside, and you just wouldn't have seen it because you would have walked right past it and not turned around. This game in particular is not really well suited for turning around and looking because your character is walking fairly slow. You might take the assumption that the dots in between each of the runes are the scannable things that are extra, so there might very well only be one or two in between. Feels like there should be some dialogue here or something. Otherwise, it feels like I'm just kind of wandering around in
Have
silence.
you ever died before? It's a serious question. When the illusion of self is shattered, you simply cease to be. Though it may not seem that way to others, you know when it is true. You can feel it. A stranger in your own body. An imposter. And nothing is the same ever again.
I think this dialogue is probably scripted to play.
And she will do so again. You can be sure of that.
Like, this dialogue just plays when nothing else is playing for a while. And seems like the face is mostly missing.
Senua, we each walk these lands gazing towards different horizons. Some of us further than others. Your father cannot see what you see, but there is nothing
You can't
wrong with
cancel
seeing the
out of
world
this.
the way you do.
So, the only thing I guess I can take from this is maybe water. Water was would have been the enemy to fire, and this entire level was fire themed. And it seems like there probably isn't going to be another easily found extra secret thing to find. So we're over here, and we can see we've got a stronger character.
Don't let them surround you. Behind you. Behind you.
I don't feel like that I've gotten particularly better here, but it does feel like what I have done is figured out a new ability, which it seems like that ability pretty much activates on a deflection.
Go. Finish this. End him now. Defend yourself. Stop.
I'm not getting but one hit.
He's gone.
Yes, Senua.
The gate won't open.
She can't get through.
Why
Let's
not?
go to the gate.
She can't.
Why?
She's only done one test.
Just one.
She's only passed one test.
What's the other test?
What's the other
Is
test?
there another one?
There must be. The gate won't open.
It's too loud. Stop.
So yeah, seems like they are gonna also force you around in circles. Well, it also seems like I missed something in this area, so that there very possibly might be an argument to going back and trying to get that one collectible. Otherwise, it feels like you're going to end up maybe having to play the game a second time. One would hope that it would give you a save file to go back and try and get all the story, but I wouldn't be surprised one bit if it actually doesn't let you do that. Maybe this is the one I missed.
In the beginning, there was nothing but
Oh,
darkness.
That was
bitter
the one.
cold to the north, fiery hot to the south. They say the cold formed ice, which melted from the sparks from the south. The power of the
So we are
darkness
looking
gave
for
light to
5
dipping ice,
collectibles,
and
and the
first
dots on the
giant
edges are
was
already
born
lit, so that can't be
and was
anything
named
extra.
Ymir. The ice continued to drip, and the power of the void gave life to it, and it became a cow whose milk fed the giant. That's right, a cow. Bet you weren't expecting that.
Remember, you can't really walk away from these things when they're talking.
Valravan, ancestor of the seers and master of ravens. He hunts his prey with his powers of illusion and feasts on their remains. Follow the path to Valravan and defeat him in battle to earn his mark. The gate to Helheim cannot be opened without it.
So it seems to me like we are just going to go through this section and still have Druth talking to us. I wouldn't be surprised if there's kind of an open area over here where we could find the father. That being said, I think we're going to just generally have about 50-minute episodes at this rate. That seems to be about right. Good news is, in our second recording here, we did not crash at the end. Actually, that was very easy. Very nice that they crashed at the end of a recording instead of 5 minutes into a recording. But we do now have the focus ability, so maybe we'll get another ability that will make fighting a little bit easier, but then they also are throwing more difficult enemies at us. Having the combat difficulty down to easy seems like it's still problematic. It seems still very struggly. It's very different from Heavenly Sword, which was much more flowing and high action, and you could just do a lot of damage, or DMC, Don't Make Cries, fast flowing ability. It seems almost like Team Ninja here has lost the ability to make Team Ninja games in favor of trying to sell something completely different, which seems really, really weird. Meanwhile, I think we probably, for the rest of the game, will still be doing the vision puzzles and fights, and that's about it. And we'll slowly get some fighting ability. So it's very questionable. Would a Hellblade 2 feel like Hellblade 2 if it started off with a massive upgrade in the fighting system, and that is all Senua is doing, is she is then much more of a warrior, and it is much closer to a God of War game than a story about psychological trauma. I don't know. That's would be the safe bet, though, is to make a game called Hellblade 2 that was very different from Hellblade 1, and barely even focus on her mental trauma as a character trait, so that you could just have the generic hack and slash grindy gameplay that most video game players are expecting. But then also, it wouldn't be a critical darling at that point. I imagine, though, that critical darlings don't sell as well as people would like. We have like 2 out of 14 achievements already done with this game, which in my estimate probably indicates that we are 1/7 of the way done with the game already. That's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to further follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and get me a game off my wish list. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.